Well, hello everybody. My name is Funmi Iyanda and this is Public Eye. Today's conversation is going to center around the Niger Delta region. Actually, I do mean it's going to center around oil, the issue of security and sea piracy from around Bonny Island out to the state and of course to the entire country from that place. Because if you talk oil, you are talking Nigeria. Since the discovery of oil in the 50s, it has become a contentious blessing for Nigeria, contributing to most of the GDP of the country. However, as we move into a future without oil as is being predicted, what will Nigeria's prosperity be based on? There's a bill in the House already, Petroleum Industry Bill. Is contentious like everything else. So, but I do promise you this conversation will not be contentious because we are hoping to get to the heart of the matter. I've got the guests, I've got you, we've got the studio audience. So let's do this together. We'll take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll start our conversation.
Yes, I go by the name Hits Boy. I'm making this video to let you all know what is happening in my hometown and where I was born, Bonny Island. Since 2017, the sea pirates have been terrorizing our waterways. The only means of traveling to my town, there is no safety, there is no security. My brothers have been killed, my sisters have been raped, our mothers have been raped, our elders have been kidnapped, they are being robbed from the sea. I'm calling on River State government, I'm calling on Bonny local government, I'm calling on all the leaders and elders in Bonny Island to do something. We need permanent solution. People can't just be killed like chicken. These are human beings for crying out loud. The people are living in fear. No adequate security or safety. Do something fast. Do something. Please share this video.
Right, welcome back. It's Public Eye, and our conversation today is going to center around security in the Niger Delta, specifically around the issue of sea piracy and so on and so forth. I mean, oftentimes when we start to talk about Niger Delta area, what you hear is, where's the money? Where's the oil money? Well, I have the people to discuss this with this morning on the show. Specifically, I want to talk with young people because there's been talk, I in particular in my career, I've been talking, I think it's about time a younger set of people start to take the reign of the conversation. Let's see where they take it from here. As a background, we must remember that the Niger Delta area of Nigeria is home to around 30 million people, covering rivers, Bayelsa, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Edo, and actually also parts of Ondo State, I think. You know, so what does this really mean for that region? Through the decades, the conversation has been the lack of development there and all the destabilization that has occurred through all those years. Why has it not changed? Well, I'm not going to do it on my own. I'm going to ask those who should know. And I'm going to start with somebody who should have the wisdom to give to us. And I will start with the gentleman on my right-hand side, Mr. Wisdom Chapp-Jumbo. Chapp.
It's Chapp-Jumbo, yes.
What's up, Chapp?
I'm good.
Incredible. All right, also joining us on the conversation this morning is Miss Ibifiri Hart. Ibifiri
Hart. Yeah.
You know I'm Yoruba, so I Yorubanize every name. Ibifiri
Hart.
What does Ibifiri mean?
So the full name is Tamini Ibifiri, and it means God's masterpiece, so to say.
Oh, I can see. So to say.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both for coming on the show
Thank
today.
you
And of course,
for
we've got
having
the
us.
COVID-safe audience. I went to Bonny Island and I took the boats to Bonny Island.
Okay.
And it was scary.
Wow.
It was very scary. I remember we had police escort and everything. And there was a time the boat stalled on the water.
Okay.
And the fear was palpable. And the policeman said to us, because we were like, why, he hid his gun. And we're like, why are you hiding your gun? He said, now my papa job. I've never forgotten it. He was kind of like, well, if you get into trouble, we're all in trouble.
Yes.
Which underscores, you know, how difficult it can be. I thought that since then, this would no longer be an issue. It's not so, is it?
Well, sadly
it's not.
Sadly, it's not.
Tell me about what's going on there.
So there has been incessant boat attacks on Bonny Sea since, time memorial, to be honest with you. I don't think there is a year that has gone by without sea pirates attacking indigenes of the kingdom, sadly enough. And not everybody can actually afford traveling by air because, so to say, the companies that are there that are running it, although it's commercialized now, but it's mostly for their staffs, right? So a good number of people, if we are to say 70%, if not 75% of every other person committing to Bonny goes through the sea. And it has been with fear, right? So you're traveling home, you're going home, and you're scared, and your mind is like always high, like, oh my God, please save me. So it has been the case since time memorial, to be honest with you.
Now you can fly there. However, most of the people have to go by boat, and these are journeys where you're not even sure you will get there.
You go by God's grace.
But only by God's grace. Why has that become worse? And who are the sea pirates?
Well, sadly, we don't know who they are, but unfortunately, it has gotten worse. Between at least 2005 to date, we get at least 20 attacks a year. If you do the maths, so in a year you get 20 attacks, and it's gotten worse. Only in January now, as we speak, we've had about 9, and that is the highest that has happened in 1 month.
What does the state government and the local government do?
That's it.
I've got to ask.
Silence. Our fathers have been kidnapped, like he said, since September till date. No word from them. Our brothers were killed in January. No word from them. They say they have provided gunboats on the sea. There are no gunboats on the sea. They are still attacking. Bonny youths decided to come out to speak up, end sea piracy, end Bonny killings and all of that. And they came out, they addressed us. The next day, 2 days later, consecutively, there were still robberies on the sea. If it was a government that was listening to its people, I don't think that there would have been a robbery on the sea just after, an attack, right? Our fathers have been kidnapped. Our brothers, 2 of them are dead. We can show you videos of how human being was butchered by sea pirates. No word. The families are still in pain. Up until date, no word, nothing. They come out to compensate you with maybe 100,000 naira or 200 or 150, or so to say, condolence messages and all of that, and they expect that everything will be fine. But that's not the case, right? That's not the case. We expect you to provide security for us. These things are basic things, right? It is a route that everybody plies through before you get to Bonny. They also ply this route. But guess what? They can provide security for themselves.
Yeah.
So they go with, security guards and all of that, personal guards and all of that. What happens to the poor man? We are there. We do not have any security guards, but God, no gunboats, nothing. And these things are basic things.
Why are there poor men in Bonny Island?
I'm a poor person.
Because you said earlier that, some of even the pirates, they think because you live in Bonny that you must have money. Because I asked that question consciously because a lot of money has gone from the federal government's accounts, in fact, from the collective accounts to the states, the Niger Delta states, many of them, and some of those communities. I'm concerned now, really, because this conversation, we've had them over and over again for decades. And I'm thinking it's important that I'm talking with younger people that should the demand not be, where is our money?
So
what has been done with all the money?
Let me shed more light on what she said. First of all, on the silence of government. You won't believe it, that since on the 12th of September, that kidnap happened till today, as we speak, the state government has said no single word. The local government itself, we say local government should be the closest to the people. So it's so unfortunate in Nigeria, is the government that is even, should I use the word farthest or far from the people? The local government is silent. So with the killings that happened on the 5th of January, where 2 youths were killed on their way back from a village to go spend the New Year. They were coming back and their boats were attacked, on our village route, and they were killed, 2 of them. That was what sparked the protest, of end sea piracy, end Bonny killing, forcing government to listen. You won't believe it, that since then till now, as we speak, even the local government has not said a word. So people protested to the local government secretariat. The Secretary of Council came to address. They said, no, we want to see the chairman that we have voted for to address us. He was not there, and he came back after 4 days or so. he has still not said a single word. I mean, no form of assurance that we're trying to do something. And that's a problem for us. Even the state government, after protesting on the 15th of January to the state government house in Port-Harcourt to see the governor, he was not there, but the commissioner of youth addressed the youth. And he assured us the message will reach the governor, which subsequently he has said it has delivered to the governor. The governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, is still silent on, okay, we are trying to do something now, or let's have a stakeholder meeting, with these people, these community people, and then find a lasting solution. Now, you talked about money. Where is the money? The truth is, where is the money? For real, we don't know where it is. A community that gives so much, if you, by estimation, to be sure, not with facts, but we contribute at least 6 billion to the Rivers State government yearly in revenue from Bonny alone. The state government gets at least 6 billion. And in Bonny alone now, we have what we call tenement rates, where the companies pay something like a fee to the government as landlords of the land they occupy. That money runs into at least 500 million a year. One company alone pays at least 230 million. You get, so if you gather all the companies pay, we are running that money up to like 500 million. But the truth is, we don't even know what you do with this money. There's no form of accountability. We don't see. So of recent, I think in November, the local government chairman bought a gunboat. 2 other gunboats we have, so making about 3 gunboats. But what are they doing? We don't see them on the waterways. They are parked at the waterside. The gunboats are supposed to be stationed at strategic location on the sea, so that when these boys see them, they walk
Who are
away.
these boys?
Sea pirates.
Well, I know that they are, because it's very interesting. There are 2 ways, because we are looking at solutions now, and I have other conversations. We're going to take the conversations further with others, particularly regarding the issue of, the bill in the House, which is also contentious. I mean, recently there was a fight in the communities about the bill, because when you were talking about remittances, that's part of all the things that's meant to change
part
within
of the
PIB bill.
Yeah.
But the question is, there are 2 ways to it. There's a security angle where we are buying gunboats to deter, criminal activities and to, arrest criminal activities. Yeah. But how's about the development end? Bonny Island has no reason to be poor.
True.
Exactly.
I agree. Exactly. I agree with you.
These things are basic things.
Yeah, they are basic. We
don't even want to talk about the unemployment rates there,
very
the
high.
bad roads there, the gas flaring, the people that are dying, and we ask for basic things like road security. And they would come out to say they've given us lights and water, but we still pay for these things. We're asking for basic things.
So I want to go to what you're asking for. What would make a difference? What would you need to see now to show to you that something actually might be getting done?
All right. I think from the protests on the 11th and 15th of January, the youths came up with a 5-point demand.
Yeah.
One of it.
Who are these youths? I mean, in Nigeria, I've come to be very. I asked the question, who these youths are? How have the youths come together?
It was one of the most amazing protests. Trust me, it was well coordinated. Youths like me and her and many others that have had enough, especially when we lost those 2 persons on the 5th of January. It was, there are people we know, people we play with. I saw one of them on the 2nd of January when I went to one of the villages, my village, to go for the Xmas this New Year. I saw him, and the next day on the 5th, he was dead. I mean, so the same thing with every other. But so youths like me and Hal and him and many others, his friends and everybody got angry. I'm like, no, enough is enough. Now our friends, our brothers are dead. Who is going to be next? It could be me. It could be you. So that was how they came together to say, now we are going to call the attention of government. And truth enough, because it was coordinated well, the youth came together and said, okay, we can't go if we don't have a demand. So what do we want from government? What do we want from our leaders? Now, in all of this conversation, we are not talking about the traditional institutional. They are also part of the leaders we are dragging into this. Now, look, how are you talking to government? So, but they came up with the 5-point demand. If I can remember vividly, one of it is, 1, providing gunboats and ambulances, stationed in strategic places on the sea, because we need that. Secondly, is to profile our boat drivers, that drive the boats. Just like you said, your boat went off at the middle of the sea when you came to Bonny that time. You know, it's an issue we continuously have. So you see, you join a speedboat, you get to the middle of the sea, and the boat goes off. The driver has a bad engine. So it's 1 hour boat drive from Port-Harcourt to Bonny, but you end up spending like 3 hours because the man begins to repair his boat on the sea.
Yep.
Imagine you join an aircraft now, and then on the air, the pilot says, sorry, the engine just went off. Let's quickly check it. Mm-hmm. You know, just imagine how that scenario will look like. It's what we go through on the sea. So one of it is, we want to know people that drive these boats. We don't know if they are informants to whoever this sea piracy, because I will tell you, Funmi, that from as much as we can remember, we have never heard the boat drivers or the boat owners get angry and protest. We no go agree that our engine and our boat is still, because when they attack, they force everybody to jump on the water, leave everything you have inside the boat, jump into the big water, and then they take off with the boat. That's usually what happens. And you are a boat owner and you are a driver. How come you have never spoken up? So who knows if you are part of it? And immediately an attack happens now, the next 1 hour, another boat is loading to Bonny or going to Port-Harcourt. And you wonder, did you notice that there was an attack? You get, so we are wondering if these boat drivers are part of these issues or the boat owners. So profile them. There are about 4 unions at the Bonny waterside, you know, and that's not coordinated enough. So one of the demands is, please profile them. Let's know who they are. Secondly, provide funds, compensation funds for the victims.
Yeah, I could read them out if you don't mind.
Yeah, go on.
So we have the people of Bonny basically are demanding for 5 things just to start off, right? So the first one is to set up and maintain a security houseboats, like he has said, and gunboats with ambulance at a strategic point along the Port-Harcourt at Bonny Sea route. The federal government, NDDC, and the state government should look into the Bonny Ring Road to aid security in the island villages and Bonny, and set up the community surveillance team for our sea routes. Ensure boats and all traveling facilities or equipment, liveries, engines, and all of that are in good conditions and adequate for operations. You know, public profiling of all boat drivers and owners, including those plying the villages as well. And then finally, like he said, create a compensation funds for the victims of sea pirates. Right. So I mean, those things are basic things that
when I look at those demands, a number of them are local governments, especially the regulation bits, you know, and the managing the drivers. Yes. You know, it's a local government affair.
Exactly.
You know, and local government is close
to the people.
Can your youth group metamorphose into a political group going down the line? I mean, of course, you have to think about the future, because I'm going to finish the conversation with you and start the next one. But I'd like to plant that idea, because I mean, I've sat with many people. Many of them have ended up in government through the decades, and maybe it's about time people actually prepare.
That's a major problem. From my angle, that's a major problem for Bonny people, sadly, because their loyalty is not even to themselves. It is to these men that are supposed to be accountable to us. So there is already a divide in the community, right? So there are youths that are loyal to these politicians, and anything they say, oh yes sir, you are doing well, you're working well. But it's obvious that they're not doing anything. And the person that was killed was, you know, your brother or your sister, and you're affected by these things. But because you get peanuts from it, you're keeping quiet.
Poverty and hunger is part of it, and the low employment rate in Bonny. Yeah. So it's the reason why, I mean, the whole angle of should we metamorphose into a political, it's another conversation that is really broad. You look at a lot of things, right. You know, but the major part of that, I haven't
got the time to have that conversation.
Yes, it's just hunger and poverty as limiting
because as I heard you, I thought to myself, you know, 2 things we can do here is that everything you've told us about, we can take to the authority concerned. Yes. I mean, we'll have, so oftentimes out of the program, the show itself, we'll do like a Zoom, because it's COVID time. We can have a Zoom meeting or conversation with the officials in charge, from NIMASA to possibly even the local government or the state government. The NDDC
most especially.
And the NDDC. We need to bring them into this conversation. The NDDC.
Because they have not done any project in Bonny since the establiment of NDDC. So we are waiting for them.
So those are like the immediate things. But I also charge you, and I like to charge younger people about this, because in 10 years, you know, or 20 years now, those years roll very, very quickly. True. Is to think of how can we get development there. And it has to be that there's going to be a new generation of leaders, you know, politicians who are going to come in. Perhaps we want to be in charge of the kind of people who come in, and also hold those kind of people accountable.
Yeah.
So that we don't keep saying these stories
over and over again. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank
I would vote for you.
Thank
I would vote for you if it was you. That's what I think.
Thank you.
I've run out of time for the conversation. Thank you. And we're going to take a break.
All right.
When we come back from the break, we're going to look at other parts of this. What exactly is the PIB about?
Okay.
What is it changing? Why are we still having conversations about things that we talked about 20 years ago regarding the Niger Delta area of the country? And at the end of the day, where is the money?
Where is the money?
Where is the oil money? We'll take a break.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, this is Mr. Retson Tedheke. As you can see, I am not in the Niger Delta. I'm Igati, Kokona local government area of Nasarawa State. Let me zoom in so that you see what's happening. For those of you who know him, that is manager. And that is a 14 horsepower motor gliding me through the waterways of Gati. Guys, like I've told everybody who care to listen, in 3 years, in the next 2 to 3 years, I am going to bring, the farm is going to bring the world to Nasarawa State in Gati. Guys, there is nothing that is impossible to achieve. But there is nothing that can be achieved in the short time if you don't put the long time effort in. And let me say it in case you are not aware, there is not one kobo of government monies here. The money that you see developing it is profit and proceeds from our sales and our projects in Nasarawa State from our farm rate. This is who I am, you see. I am going to continue to do this. Until the day I drop dead, I am going to continue to build this community. And yes, the dream that Sir Ahmad Bello, the agricultural revolution of Sir Ahmad Bello, the cooperative and progressive initiative of Awolowo, until those dreams and aspirations are met, I will not stop. Call me anything. This is where we live. Niger.
Right, welcome back. It's Public Eye, and our conversation today is around the issue of security and opportunities in the Niger Delta, starting the conversation from Bonny Island and out. So I'm joined on the conversation now by people, well, I'm just going to introduce them. The gentleman on my left-hand side is Mr. Retson Tedheke. He's described here as an ex-bunkerer turned farmer. I can't wait to hear that story. But also you will know him as the National Coordinator and Secretary General of Nigeria's Farmers Group and Cooperative Society. I didn't even know we had that society. Good day.
Good day. It's an honor. I heard a lot about you. And practically this is like the biggest opportunity for us, media-wise. And I'd give it for anything for the world to be here.
You flatter me nicely, but I'm still going to ask you all the questions I want to ask.
I'm ready.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Tedheke. And also on my right-hand side is Mr. It says for me not to repeat it twice, but I really must because it's such a great name. Mr. Fyneface Dumnamene. Is it Dumnamene?
Dumnamene.
Dumnamene. Mr. Fyneface Dumnamene Fyneface. Yeah. So good they named him twice.
Thank you.
He's from Ogoni land, and if you know anything about, well, as Nigerians, once you hear Ogoni, so many things come to mind immediately, starting with Ken Sarua, who he finds as an inspirational, because Mr. Fyneface himself is an environmental justice activist, human rights defender, and the executive director of Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for this ray of light you brought.
Yeah, it's important because if the issues in the Niger Delta are not properly addressed, you are going to see red in the Niger Delta.
I didn't see that coming, but I like what came in that way. I'm going to start this way, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Retson. Why would you go into oil bulkery at any point? You were, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, you're right.
I mean, it's called cooking. I mean, they call it cooking.
Cooking of oil.
Cooking of oil.
Yes.
And from I know your background. You come from an academic family, a socialist academic family. Your father was a professor.
Yeah.
And you became, at a point, an oil bunkerer. What went wrong?
Business went wrong. 2007, 2008, I was into stock trading. Lost about 400 million with that downturn in stock. And so we're looking at what were the options available. Of course, the issue of going home came up. And I went to the creek. It was quick business, easy money. So I went in, had my own camp, had connection with practically almost all the structures on ground. So it was easy to know when NNPC was pushing crude. It was easy to, the guys who were supposed to secure those lines practically give us all of the information. And so we'll take them when they are pushing crude, refine them, and then distribute them across the country with our network. It was massive. It was good business, but it was very deadly business. And so it was the challenges of doing business in Nigeria generally that drove us into the creek. And then the challenges of sustaining business in the creek drove us out of the creek and into agriculture.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, wow, it doesn't seem remorseful.
Yeah, it's you know, I've always looked at the challenges of the Niger Delta, and you cannot be from the Niger Delta and feel remorseful until you are out of the region and begin to see the damages that your action is causing in the region. You see, the question is, agitation is good if the end goal is defined. And so most of us that go into agitation, the militancy, the illegal businesses in the region, go in with the mindset of the fact that the region has been deprived of opportunities for way too long. So in trying to correct it, we end up being problem to the system. So you see, when you, like I said, when you are there, you're not remorseful. But you come out and you look at the damages you're doing to the environment. You look at the damage you're doing to the people. You look at the lack of progress. And then you begin to reflect and ask yourself, if we continue along this path, what is going to happen in the next 10, 20 years? Right. You talked about kidnapping, it's going to get worse. You're talking about banditry across the country, for example, it's going to get worse because what you saw in the 80s, the volume of kidnappers in the 80s is not what you're having right now. Yeah. So you only get to begin to see the problem when you're not directly involved.
How easy is it to get into oil bunkering? How easy is it for young men and women to be recruited into oil bunkering? It
is the same ease with which Boko Haram recruits talents in the north. You see, when poverty pervades your society, when hunger becomes the currency, when the challenges of governance, even though most of our leaders go out of this country and see the wonderful things that are done outside, if it cannot be replicated locally, it becomes easy for those guys at the local community to get involved. When we went to the Niger Delta, the communities were willing to give us their land to do bunkering. Why? Because they felt that you can take 2 or 3 members of my community and I give them 1,000 naira a day, and that was good enough. Why? Because there was a vacuum created by lack of good governance, by lack of insight, by lack of people understanding these challenges in the region. And so, while the solutions was right there in our faces, the access to the right amount of wealth or the right, the comfort, you cannot, all of us cannot be wealthy, but at least the comfort level, what I call the base level, where everybody can at least feed, have good water, have good road. When all those facilities are not there, anybody can walk into the region tomorrow, and what is it going to do? It's going to sell the fact that I can give you 1,000 naira a day and that will be okay. And because they don't have anything doing, they will see that as a lifeline. And so the same principle of recruiting with Boko Haram, sorry to say this, is the same principle of recruiting in the Niger Delta, and that's why it is easy for the youth and the people to get involved thinking that they're doing something nice, whereas we're doing something to destroy the entire region.
I'm going to come back to you. That's a great foundation to come to you, Mr. Fyneface, that since Kensarua, there's been conversation about environmental degradation, about all the injustices and lack of opportunity in the Niger Delta area. There's also been a lot of money pumped into the Niger Delta area. It can be argued that that's not enough money that the region deserves anyway. That's a different argument. But a lot of money has been pumped in there. Is the challenge really, how much of the challenge is an environmental challenge, a government challenge, or a people challenge? Which should come first in resolving it?
I think the environmental challenges come first because the environment is the man and the man is the environment. And if you want to destroy the man, you just destroy the environment and you would have destroyed the man. Because the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, everything comes from the environment. So the moment the environment is tampered with, the entire human being in that area is tampered with. So the challenges in the Niger Delta is such that if it is not addressed and allowed to continue, a day might come which will have a Niger Delta without a Niger Delta people. because almost everybody living in the Niger Delta is inhaling poison every. You heard about the black soot.
Yeah.
That is very common in parts of the country. It's very common there. So all those things are in the environment. So what that means is that you may not be generating the soot from the sources the government have said they are coming from, be it artisanal crude oil refining, industries, asphalt companies, and water fuel. But then, if you go to market to buy vegetable, the vegetable is not covered. The soot deposit on it. You take it home. You go to buy garri, it is not covered. Deposit on it. You take it home. You go to even buy water, even if it's bottled water. You open it. You don't wash the bottled water before you drink. You just open it and you drink. Those who buy sachet water on the road also take it. So there is nothing you pick from the market, from the environment to eat that you are not eating poison. So it's as bad as that. And the challenges here is that I know the federal government had tried in a way to address the challenges in the Niger Delta. I know they have brought about the environmental cleanup currently ongoing, being undertaken by hydrocarbon pollution remediation projects. They have also created the Niger Delta Development Commission to also intervene in the Niger Delta. They have talked about the Presidential Amnesty Program as another intervention in the region, and then the Niger Delta Ministry that has its office in Abuja instead of the Niger Delta. So these are efforts. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
You can't create a ministry for a region, and the ministry is not resident in that region. It's an aberration. So I call on them to relocate the Ministry of the Niger Delta Affairs to the Niger Delta, so that they can be in there to see the challenges we are facing and see how to be able to feel it. A Niger Delta minister sitting in Abuja wouldn't understand the problem of the people at home. You need to be there. Even the oil companies that are contributing to environmental pollution in the Niger Delta, a lot of them are not resident there. I know even most of them are residents in Lagos, Abuja. They fly into the Niger Delta daily to work and go back. So when you tell them about the challenges on ground, they do not really understand because they are not there to feel it. Even the environmental cleanup in Ogoniland, for instance, is being undertaken by a hydrocarbon pollution remediation project. That office is in Port-Harcourt. The workers, the staff, and all of them, they come in every day with military and police guide, and they move into the site and they move back. So even while that is going on, the money, $1 billion estimated for the project, is not even being spent in Ogoniland. So you still have a lot of issues around all these areas. That
I hear you when you say it's an environmental issue. And this year, or from last year to this year, everyone in the world has learned what it means if the environment turns against the people.
Yeah.
We think we are more than our environment. That's not true. We know that. But the challenge with that is that it's not always a kickback from the environment. It's usually gradual. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Tedheke. You were talking earlier about, once you pull out, you can see what the other opportunities are. What led to the pulling out for you?
The risk of death, primarily, was getting really risky, having running battle with the military, as well as all the security agencies in the region. And, human beings were never satisfied. You pay this bill today, you're paying the next bill tomorrow, you're paying. And so it got to a point where we could not bear it anymore. And I had to leave because it was a choice of continuing to do business there or ending up losing your life. That was why I left. And to come back to what he was saying with regards to people or government, I understand that government has a lot of role to play. But I feel that, when you have a docile populace, those in government will misbehave. The people, and I'll use my example in Nasarawa State. When I was to start the farm community project in Delta State. When I got to Delta, I didn't go to government, I went to my community. I could use pidgin so that I could clear
Go
out
ahead,
here.
I do understand.
When I reach village, I said, make I first go bring goat to appease our people. I buy goat finish. I said the goat now, so make I go market, go buy 30K goat. I spent about 200,000 naira to buy goat. If I finish the 6 chief here, chief wife, boys for village, I'd spent close to 2 million without being given land.
On goats?
On goats and settlement. When I got to Nasarawa State, the only thing I gave to them in Nasarawa State was cola. And I'm sitting on 3,500 hectares of farmland as we speak. I didn't see government. In short, the vice president came to the farm October 2019 I didn't know anybody in government before he came to see the place. And the governor had been there 4 times. So the governor didn't know there was a project like that until the VP called him and said, I'm coming to see a farm community settlement in your state. And the governor said, farm community settlement in my state? Who is ready? He said, one militant from the Niger Delta. The reality is this. Our people make those in leadership position wasteful. And that was why I said, I saw someone recently, I said, you see, NSAS is just a trigger. It is the beginning of what is likely going to happen to this country. The people have the capacity of changing government, because every man who is in government today was part of the street yesterday. Most of them who were activists yesterday went into government today, and all of a sudden, it seems as though the problem they said they could change yesterday, they are not able to change today because they are not in government. I always say that the Niger Delta was not known for crude oil before the discovery of crude oil. We were known for palm oil, for gari, for cassava. And today, Holland, the Netherlands, generated between 2015, when Buhari came to power, and 2019, generated about 100 billion euro per annum from agriculture. Holland, a population of just about 30 million people, just like the Niger Delta.
Are you saying that the mentality has been created in the region that is one that is kind of like in a bad relationship with corruption itself?
Yes.
So there's an expectancy that government must give us or must pay us. Is that what you're implying?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you agree with him?
Yes, to collaborate with that, the youths in the Niger Delta, let me take example from those who are involved in artisanal crude oil refining, because having worked in this sector for over 13 years, I understand there is difference between artisanal crude oil refining and oil bunkering. Oil bunkering is an official process of government bunkering crude or refined products into the ship and taken abroad. But when that is done illegally, it becomes illegal bunkering. Then you have these other youths who are involved in artisanal crude oil refining for their daily, upkeep, to be able to raise something for themselves. They are the people that contribute to environmental pollution more. So this whole process, has a lot to do with the young people in the Delta. And I believe that if we want to address the issue, we need to really do orientate the people. Orientation is very, very key to be able to address this.
I want to go to PIB. I know it's a contentious one, because even recently there was a fight in a host community regarding, parts of the bill. There's also the conversation that, people want to invest in the Nigerian oil industry who require some sort of transparency in the oil industry, require that the PIB be passed. The PIB has now become this thing that everybody is waving as the panacea, or maybe not the panacea.
Yeah.
What will the PIB really do?
Well, the PIB can do a lot. And they're talking about resource control. When Nigeria became independent in 1960, it met a system where the north was producing granules. With other parts were producing cocoa, like the east, and different things. They were all producing that. And we were sharing 50-50 between the federal and the regional governments and the people that produced that. That was a kind of resource control. But as oil was discovered, it gradually replaced that system of agriculture that was helping the system. And now what you have is 13% derivation. So those who produce now take 13%, the federal government takes the rest with other sharing formula that they have. But then the point here is that this PIB is trying to collapse.
That 13% was fought for. I'm old enough to remember that.
It never came on the platter of gold.
I'm old enough to remember that.
Everything the Niger is fought for.
Yeah.
The struggle of HR begins at birth, and you need to struggle before you get there. So that's why we continue to struggle. The PIB is a very vital bill that, when passed into law, may solve a lot of problems, only if the content is properly articulated before it is passed. Remember, it is collapsing about 16 laws that exist within the Nigeria oil and gas industry into one document. That is why I know it has taken them a long time from the 7th Assembly, also over about 20 years now it's been in the National Assembly, and we are currently talking about it now to see how it could be passed. But then something is happening within that system that may also cause problems and may not solve the problems in the Niger Delta or in the oil and gas industry. The point here is that... And indeed Nigeria. Because the bill is an executive bill drafted by the presidency, passed to the National Assembly without the community people, the oil host and impacted communities having opportunity to make contribution into that document. The only opportunity open for them to make contribution into that document is the public hearing that is being held at the Senate and House of Reps. But then the public hearing, how many days? 2 days in the Senate, 2 days proposed for the House of Reps. And out of that 2 days, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., how many hours? About 3 hours. How many hours are given to the community people to make input into the system? All they said is for them to drop their document. But then you still have the people that drafted the bill, the executive, coming and being given opportunity to speak at length, presenting their issues, including the oil companies. Now, if you open the document the way they have put it, let's concentrate more on the area of oil impacted communities and the provision of the PIB. In that provision, They are talking about the petroleum tax, the fund that will be created, okay? Where some percentage will be paid to the community for them to have a fund in a purse to be able to develop themselves. Then when you look at that provision, which is in chapter 4 of the PIB, you have so much power being given to the oil companies. The oil companies will have to form the board of trustees. The board of trustees will have to form the management committee, and then the management committee will now relate with the community and water fuel. So it's still not a bill that if opportunities are not given for community people to contribute the way they want, it may not solve the problem. Now they're talking about shareholding within the system. When PIB was first submitted to the National Assembly in about 2007, it was 10% provision for host communities. By 8 assemblies, it was reduced to 5%. Currently, it's being reduced. In 2021, it's being reduced. When the bill was submitted in September to the Assembly, it's been reduced to 2.5%. And now the issue is, why is it being reduced? Who knows if the current public hearing does not lead to the passage of that bill by proper input, they may even reduce it to 1%.
Why are we still fighting, talking, aching about one resource? One of the courses I did in university, I studied geography, by the way,
okay,
was called Nigeria, and we focused on the resources. And the amount of resources, Nigeria has no reason to be poor.
The PIB will not work. Simple. Because almost every policy you put on the Niger Delta has not worked. Right? You got it correctly. 200 million people and growing. The petroleum industry is, when it comes to employment, when it comes to creating jobs, it's one of the least when it comes to creating jobs. In the Niger Delta, like I said earlier, you have palm oil. Palm oil is more expensive than crude oil. Cassava has benefit, we'll talk about benefits, medical benefits, fuel, you can use also ethanol, and you also you can use it for feeding. And so every single state has so much to give, but then we are fixated on the easy part. And that's why I said the PIB will not work, because what petroleum should do, like the West did. Texas is a very large oil producing state in the United States, but they use oil to develop other industries. And so you go there right now, you realize that agriculture in Texas is doing about $10–20 billion per annum. Why is it that Nigeria cannot do that from even just the north? I always go back to history. In 1976, the year I was born, Malaysia and Indonesia came here to learn how to plant palm oil. Today, Malaysia and Indonesia combined are doing about $15 billion every year from palm oil alone. So we are a nation of people who have been so fixated on crude that we have actually ignored every other thing. And that is why development is very far, because I look at it in context. Agriculture can actually create 10 million jobs with an average of 2 million jobs per year in this country.
But isn't there even much more than that that's possible? Start with your own agriculture.
No, but I'm connecting it because you're right. But that is because too many of our people don't actually understand agriculture. Every single industrial revolution was powered by agriculture. The Chinese, the Americans. So when they come to tell us about high-tech industrial revolution, it doesn't exist without agriculture. What it does is this. For example, I'll use the farm as an example. It's supposed to be a farm, right? But I have a fabrication unit where I build machines. I have a clinic and a medical unit where we look at what form of research you can do in agriculture for medical purposes. You have the ranch that you have now converted into an abattoir where we harvest the bone for other issues. So you see, when we look at agriculture in this country, we make the mistake of looking at it as a single, we narrow it to just farming. No. When you look at agriculture, you look at industrialization. If you develop agriculture properly, you can begin to fabricate tractors in this country. What are you doing? You're talking about manufacturing, because Boeing is an airline manufacturer. They are also into a contract with the United States government on agricultural manufacturing equipment. Yeah. So you see, it is the single-mindedness. Sometimes I call it the poverty of our ideology and our mentality, where a people believes that you can actually pray your way out of problem without looking at the solutions to those problems. If you look at agriculture as wide as it is, how is it that it's able to can create about 10 million jobs in 5 years? It is because you're not talking about jobs, farming jobs alone. It's because you're talking about manufacturing jobs. It's because you're talking about ICT jobs. It's because you're talking about marketing jobs. It's because you're talking about production jobs. It's because you're talking about processing jobs. So you look at the entire agro value chain. you realize that no nation has ever succeeded without agriculture. Not one, except the state of Hong Kong. And because Hong Kong was a trade link between mainland China and the rest of the world, and so it didn't need to grow agriculture before it became what it became as a hub. Or you're talking about Dubai. Even Dubai, where did they start? They started from seashells. They were harvesting, they were a fishing port before it became a tourism center. So you see, we look at agriculture from this single-mindedness we used to looking at crude oil. Nations develop, when they saw oil, they use oil to develop other industries. When we discover oil, we kill other industries to sit on oil. And it is so clear today that if you want to solve the problem of insecurity, you have to look into agriculture, because you need to mop up. We are 200 million people, average population of about 19 years old, and majority of our youth don't have jobs. That's number one. Number two, rural Nigeria accounts for about 70% of all of our population. Guess what? Majority of rural Nigeria is locked out of the country. And that is why, whether you're talking about the Niger Delta, you're talking about the Northeast, the armed forces are having difficulties battling insurgency, battling kidnappers, battling banditry, because majority of those areas where most of these guys are sitting are isolated.
How do we get a different response?
We can get a different response if the youths, who are the life wire of Nigeria, decide that we have a different response. I believe that the future of Nigeria lies in the hands of the young people of this country. Picking from the example we just had last year about the NSAS protest, which was targeted at ending SARS, but has brought about some changes in the system now. So I think that if the youth can come together and decide on their own what they need from the system, because sometimes it makes me to feel bad when they complain that young people are not in positions of trust and responsibility, and an old man will give you arm to go and rake him into power, and you will go and do that. Instead of you taking that arm from the man, collecting the money from him, and rake a younger person into power, since we have election in Nigeria as selection. So the point here remains that it lies in the hands of the young people. And I think that we need to begin to sensitize the people and mobilize them to a better change. Everything is not about money. Generate ideas and you are able to do something different. And that is what we'll continue to do and use and sensitize the people.
All right, I'm going to take a short break. When we come back from the break, I want to talk to the mostly young people. I know that not everybody there is young-ish, but I would come back after the break and we will continue. Right, welcome back. It's Public Eye, and today we're in the Niger Delta, so to say. Before we went on the break, we decided we're going to talk to our audience, and I think I see you already with the microphone. If you could take off your mic, your mask, thank you. What's your name?
I'm Evelyn Igbadube. Okay, I don't know his name, but the first speaker, he said he left Niger Delta because of different changes. So with the experience he had, can't he start a change or get other individuals that have experience like he had to make a change or to bring a change into Niger Delta?
So get other ex-militants?
Yes.
Interesting, interesting.
By name, I'm Patrick E. James. Having listened to the two speakers, I believe there is hope for Niger Delta. That said, I Googled and discovered that it cost Dubai government like $12 billion to transform it to what it is. And I discovered that over $40 billion is on record to have been spent supposedly in the Niger Delta. Even if the $40 billion didn't get to the leaders, whatever got to them cannot be less than $15 billion. And if Niger Delta is still that jungle it is a shame on every leader of Niger Delta. Now, in rounding up, Silicon Valley, what they generate in a year is more than what Nigeria has as a budget.
Thank you for those points you have made.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to speak yet, or you will answer and then we'll come back? Let's take the answers first.
Her question is why don't I get others involved if I have been able to leave the region? We currently have about 300 people working in the farm. About 10 of them were people that were working with me in the Niger Delta that I had to take to Nasarawa. Now, there was a time we were expecting an aide to the governor of Rivers State came to the farm to see. Because when the Minister of Agric for State, Shehuri, came to the farm, he promised to invite all the commissioners of Agric in all the states of the Federation to come and study it as a model, a farm community settlement model that can be applied across all states. So yes, those attempts are being made. But the challenge is too many of us in this country are not interested in the solution. We love the optics of the solution, but not the solution itself. So even when I make this case, when I wrote to the Delta State government, for example, to have a look at setting up community farm centers where you can actually generate more money from agriculture and high industries compared to crude oil, and then you can empower the people more, give them something to feed on, give them something to work with. You write, and then the response is not coming in. And you are very much aware that the private sector cannot invest the capacity that you need to be able to make this change. And nobody should tell us that government has no business in business. In short, government is the only business in business because it is the policies of government that drives business. It is the finances of government that drives business. So while we have made that attempt, the challenge has always been the capacity and the support structure to be able to replicate what we have done in Nasarawa State and in Gati in other communities. And that was when people were making the Ruga argument. I said, are you aware today that in the United States, places like Texas, you have open range. Open range is the same thing as open grazing. The difference is that there are laws for people to follow. Now, what they do is, the cowboy in the US is the same thing as the Fulani man in the North. What have the Americans done with the cowboy? You have the cowboy, the country music. You have the Sanchez, the shoe. You have their mode of dressing. You have their cow and their lifestyle. It's a $500 billion industry in the US every year. What is the value of the Nigerian economy again? It's around $500 billion. So you see, what this country generates from as an entire nation GDP is equivalent to what the cowboy industry generates in the US. And so if you develop the Fulani man with his cow as an industry, particularly in the North, what you would have ended up doing is to create an industry that's capable of taking 5, 10, 20 million people and then giving them source of income, as well as creating the revenue for the country. The Niger Delta right now has a developmental problem, has a mental problem. Most of our problems start from the mind. I talk and say, very soon we'll carry the crude oil, so Gary. You know, you can treat the people to a point where they refuse to accept the 1,000 that a man is going to give to them to go and take weed, go and take drugs, and go and take gun. Because they realize that if I am confident that the salary I am getting is 30,000, let's even use the basic minimum of 30,000, and I'm able to send my kids to school with that, I'm able to have something to feed, and the system supports me, they will not take gun. They will not take the other option.
Yeah,
so the anger is justified. Also.
So lots are there. We just need to think out of the box currently. Our leaders need to look at things differently and not think that oil is the solution to our problem. Oil is not.
Right. Thank you very much. I want to leave you to have a last statement and then I will round up, because a lot of things is happening in my head as we speak, and I'm thinking, could we? You know, but at the heart of it is the willingness of either the leadership to do the right thing or the followership to ensure that the leadership does the right thing. I don't know how that will happen.
You talked about, I should give you an insight into the settlement center in Nasarawa State. Let me break it down for you. We ran a 33 kVA line for about 5 kilometers to get to the farm. Government was not involved, costing the farm about 60 million. We built a dam holding about 500 million cubic liters of water. Government was not involved. You have 300 people, about 70% of them women. Women are wonderful when it comes to doing a good job. In fact, they actually do building this country. Government is not involved. The realization, we have to get to this point where you begin to realize that the path we have taken has not worked. Activists must begin to go into activism to solve problems. I locked down the National Assembly 2016, April and November. Why? Because we're not passing budget on time and things were not working. So I shut down the National Assembly twice. It was from the gate of the National Assembly that I moved to the farm. Because I realized that if I keep locking the National Assembly, I bring 1,000 Nigerians to lock the National Assembly, what will happen? Tomorrow they say, okay, I'm going to do ABC for you. What impact have I created in the lives of Nigerians? So I left Abuja and went to Nasarawa, about an hour's drive from Nasarawa, went to Nasarawa to set up the Farm Industrial Park. Currently they sent about 50, where we created almost everything possible. Now you are not just farming, because when we started in 2017, it was just about cultivating maize. 2018, we went cultivated about 7 crops, including ginger, sesame seed, and the rest. And in 2018, we started building processing plants. Because like Funmi Iyanda said in 2018, Côte d'Ivoire is one of the largest producers of cocoa in the world. In 2018, Côte d'Ivoire lost about $1 billion from the drop in price of cocoa. Switzerland that don't have land to produce cocoa was making about $50 billion every year from processing chocolate. So Cote d'Ivoire was losing $1 billion because the price of cocoa crashed, and Switzerland lost zero because that's the finished product. And so what we must do, what needs to be done, the way forward is to begin to think not just to keep talking about the problem, but to create solutions. Farm industrial park don't cost much. I took a loan of about 1.5 million to start the project. As at this year, where we're luckily for us, and I'm going to say this on air, the central bank just granted the farm about 734 million in some commercial agri support structure because they came and they saw this is crazy. They opened a 2 billion naira line for the farm. As at this year, we have done about 3 billion naira worth of business in a community where the infrastructure are built with stick, wood, and zinc, not with any strong pillar or whatever it is. And so the foundation is a reorientation, and they're beginning to ask ourselves that, look, if in the 80s and the 90s, the level of kidnapping is not, I mean, we're not seeing about five or 10 of such cases in the news. If today we are having it every single day, what is going to happen in the next 10 or 20 years? I can assure you, in the next 10 or 20 years, if nothing is done, you're going to get to a situation where even person when get 2K motor, they will kidnap them. It's short, they have started kidnapping people with Okada to collect 5,000. So the reality is the nation is on the edge, and solutions must become foundation in the real activity of the people, or it go hard for the future one we face.
Now, there me say go leave them. Because I think that there's a lot for everyone to think about. Thank you both for the conversation today.
Thank you for having me on the program.
Well, we'll have a public eye keeping an eye on what you're doing, and you can be sure I am coming to Nasarawa and that farm. I thank you for participating in this conversation today. Remember, you can join the conversation, you can extend the conversation by joining all our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that, we're there. We continue it on our website too. From this conversation, we will go and talk to the officials in power and see what they have to say. But I will say what I've been saying on this show from beginning. You know, at the end of the day, we are going to have to determine the future. We must choose the kind of future we want. To do that, we will be watching you. Watch yourself. See you next week. Bye-bye now.